Conversations with Celena, the podcast where we discover inspiration, motivation, and information to help you live your best life. I'm your host, Celena, aka Sunshine, and each week we'll dive into conversations with guests who share their testimonies, insights, and advice. We'll explore topics that uplift, encourage, and empower you to be the best version of yourself you can be. So tune in and let's have some fun while we explore all that life has to offer. Keep it smiling, sunshine, and let's go. Hey, sunshine. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Celena. We are doing a double header on today. So listen, I am your host, Sunshine, and we're here to add to your listening pleasure some inspiration, motivation, and information to help you live your best blessed life. So listen, we're going to jump right on into it tonight because I can't even stop smiling. Actually it's today, but I cannot stop smiling. I'm so excited for you to meet my guest on today. And I just want to tell you a little bit about her. Can't nobody tell their testimony the way that the individual can tell it. So I'm going to leave most of it for her. But just to give you a little snippet of some of her testimony. So Miss Shirley has been a surgical assistant in research, a teacher, and the owner of a successful interior design practice for the past 40 years. She once was detained by the Secret Service. Oh, Lord, who wants that to happen? Who thought she was a terrorist? Now, this lady, she's so sweet. I don't even know how she could have been even thought of to be a terrorist. So I cannot wait to hear this. Just a lot going on. I'm not even going to read all of it because I want her to tell it. But the things that we go through, it prepares us for where God is taking us. So I want you all to keep that in mind as she comes and shares her testimony, that whatever you're going through, that whatever we go through is not for us today. It's for us in our future self, and it's for us in our serving role to others. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage, you hear my little country accent, bring to the stage Miss Shirley Novack.
Hi. That's me. Hi. Oh, I love it.
I know, girl. I love that too. Since we on the virtual audience, that's what we got to do, girl. We got to make it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Shirley, for coming on Conversations with Celena. I really do appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. So I didn't read a whole lot of your bio because I want you to tell some of your testimony. I want you to share about your books and whatever you feel led to share in this episode, because you're always welcome back. So don't feel pressured to get it all in one episode, but whatever is tugging on your heart. I know that you are an author. I know that you've had that type of experience. I know that there's domestic violence. I know that there's human trafficking that you would like to bring awareness to. So I'm going to let you just jump in wherever you feel like you want to start.
Well, I personally have never experienced domestic violence.
It's awareness, right? You bring awareness.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But I did live with emotional abuse.
Okay.
Many years, not from my husband, but from his whole family. They were an unbelievably abusive family, and it was always aimed at me. And I couldn't have been nicer. You're right. I couldn't have been nicer. But I was brought up in a family that taught you to respect your elders. And in the end, it hurt me. And after 29 years, I did divorce the person and his family and entered into the most amazing, wonderful marriage. I was lucky to meet someone. And now I know what a true relationship looks like. My first book came during the pandemic.
Well, hold on before you go to the book.
Okay.
I got to talk about this family thing and this abuse. Now, you say you stayed 29 years.
Well, I stayed 25 years until I filed for divorce. And then it took the rest of that time to get it done because he wouldn't he wouldn't do it. I mean, he kept changing attorneys because his attorneys kept saying, she's really a nice person. She's a nice person. You know, just end it. It's getting very costly. Just end it. And he's like, you're fired. And then he'd go on to the next attorney and fire that one because I didn't want anything. I just wanted out. He was manic depressive. He was bipolar. And he was very successful, very successful. He was a doctor. And he lost all his money over and over and over again. And I didn't know that. I didn't know what was going on because that was the world I grew up in. You know, I was the homemaker, the mother, you take care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But if it were today, I never would have tolerated it, and it would have ended a lot earlier. And so when I see people in similar situations
Mm-hmm.
that I lived through, I really try to influence them that life is too short to not be happy and to have what you want. You know, if you're a good person and all your intentions are not to hurt anybody, then you shouldn't be hurt. You should not live with it. And when I look back now and I see the emotional abuse that I withstood, it drives me crazy because I put up with it. And I put up with it only because I was taught you respect your elders. But this went much too far. I mean, they were a horrible family. And
they were just being mean to you because they didn't want you with him, or
well, they were crazy. They were all a little bit nuts. Just one example, the night I came home from my honeymoon, my mother-in-law said to me, I want the key to your house, and I want my other children to each have a key to your house. You're going to be in the family now, and we should have the freedom to come and go into your house the way you can in my house. And I was 21 years old. And I sat there, and my husband at the time just sat there with his head down, said nothing. And when she got done telling me all the things she expected of me, and she said, and I expect you will go to your mother's house every Friday night for dinner, and I expect you'll come to my house every Sunday for dinner. So when she was done, I looked at her very respectfully, and I said, you are welcome to come to my home anytime you want. The only thing is, I would just appreciate a phone call first. You know, we don't know where we'll be, if we have company or what's going on. I said, and as far as everybody having the key to my house so they can come and go, I said, we just got married. I said, I need to know that I have some privacy. And all I ask is that you call first and let us know you're coming. And I said, we work full time. My mother does not expect us to come for dinner every Friday night. And I would like to not make it a negative and say we can't come on Sunday, because I would like to turn it into a positive and say to you, hey, can we come for dinner today if we're free to do that? But I don't want to feel that it's something we have to do. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she said, you know what? She said, number one, I will never call and ask permission to come to my son's home. And number two, love is something that has to be earned, and you are doing nothing to earn my love. And I was 21 years old.
I ain't never heard that before in my life.
No. And that's how it began. That's how it began. And the very next day, I had to call McLean's Hospital, which is a psychiatric facility, and ask them to recommend someone for my husband, my new husband, because he went into such a state of depression that he became catatonic. And here I was 21 years old, and I made the biggest, at the time I thought this is the biggest mistake I've ever made, but divorce was not an option. My parents were very religious, and I didn't have the strength or the knowledge to go ahead and just say, I want this annulled now. And so it lasted 25 years. I had 3 children because they were my life. I mean, I loved, and there were good times. I mean, there were good times. And I try to focus on that. But I finally had the courage, and actually, when I was stopped for being a terrorist,
Hold on, hold on. I have a question for you.
well, because that ties into how I was able to ask for divorce.
Okay.
I came home that night and I said to my husband, "Wow, what a story I've got. You won't believe what just happened to me." And he's, because it was business related. And
Mm-hmm.
he said to me, "Either you give up your business and stay home, or I'm leaving you." And I knew he didn't mean it, but I said, yes. It came out of his mouth. And once those words came out of his mouth, to me, there was no turning back. And it was from that point on that I proceeded. And it took almost 4 years after that for it to finally end. But it was
So
the best thing.
yeah, so he had a problem with you being independent, and he just wanted to control you
He
emotionally and financially.
he had a problem with me having my own successes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did become successful and well known in the Boston community as an interior designer. And I was getting a lot of, I was getting press and I was getting praise and I was doing shows, and he couldn't stand that. He couldn't take it. Yeah. And and also, no matter what, I'm a very happy person, if you couldn't tell. I mean, I really wake up every morning and my cup is always half full. And the nights were the times that I paid for the days that I had. But no one knew. No one knew. No one in the world, except my very closest friend, knew that I was in an unhappy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rest of my life that I created was wonderful. It was just, yeah. So I tolerated it. It
Wow.
actually gave me a lot of freedom because he took responsibility for nothing. And he would come home, take a nap. He provided a paycheck, but that was about it because he ended up losing it anyhow. But I single handedly really brought up my children. And I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted because he never asked. And so I was like on a tennis team, and I had a million girlfriends, and I became involved in different societies, and was never unfaithful or anything like that. But, the days I had, the nights I had were the price I paid for the days that I had. And my days were mine.
Mm-hmm. I really hate that. And there's so many stories like this where it's 25 and 30 years, but you deserve, you deserve to have a happy life. And I saw you call your husband and he came right to your rescue. I saw it. I witnessed it with my own eyes. And I said, girl, I can't wait till I have me a husband. I can call and say, can you come fix this for me? And he just comes right on and fixes it. But with all of that, you had to let go of that, release that, so that you can be open to receive what it is that God has for you. So we're going to apply that to anything and everything that we have going on. You shared it as your testimony in your marriage, but listen, I want you all to listen. You have to release and let that stuff go that is not serving you, so that you can be open to receive what it is that God has for you.
And I will say that the man I met, we're going on our 23rd anniversary, and we were fixed up, and he was a widower. So our marriage experiences were totally different because he was joined at the hip with his first wife, and I was totally independent. And so we had to find a common ground to come together on because I needed my space. But God blessed me with this man. He is the most wonderful thing in the world, and he's just a gift. He's a wonderful gift for me, and I relish it. And I wish it had happened sooner, but it wasn't meant to be sooner.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I'm just appreciating it all now. But
I know, like your days and nights just come together.
yep, he's
So
my
process,
partner.
Rosalind said it was like, how dare you be able to navigate this world without his authority? So yeah, so she's saying like he didn't want you to be out there having a good time and having a life and being successful without you. I mean,
He
without him.
he handed me all the responsibility. I mean, he took responsibility for nothing other than providing
Making
the paycheck,
mm-hmm.
and then he would lose that paycheck. He was a white collar gambler, and he lost every dime we ever had 4 times in our marriage.
Wow.
And our children's savings, their tuition, he lost everything because he gambled in the stock market by margining. And no matter what it is, it's called gambling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Because if you can lose it, you took a gamble.
absolutely, you're playing with someone else's money. I mean, he would work up the credit cards to their limit and use that money to margin in the stock market. And then he'd get margin calls. And if anyone doesn't know what a margin call is, when you buy stocks on margin, you're using someone else's money. You're betting that the stock is either going to go up or it's going to go down. And if it doesn't go up when you're thinking it's going to go up, then you lose that money. If it goes down when you think it's going to go up, well, you've automatically lost. But then they call in their loans. And if you don't have the money to pay the loans, they attach you. It's it's a brutal way to live. And he was making a lot. He was a wonderful doctor, but when he died 6 years ago, and he died of stress because everything was being foreclosed on him, and he finally couldn't take it and had a heart attack and just dropped dead.
Mm. So I do have another question. Did he ever stand up for you and put his family in their place?
Good question, because the answer to that is absolutely, positively never. Never.
25 years of that.
Yep. And they were pretty abusive. And I just didn't want to be the one to blame. I mean, I was always very respectful. When his younger brother graduated college, I threw him a big party, never even got a thank you. When his other brother had a nervous breakdown and went into an institution for about a year, I was the only one that took care of him and let him come move into my house for a few months while I was 9 months pregnant with my last child. And you know what? I never got a thank you. I mean, I did what I felt was expected of me, and I did
Mm-hmm.
it with a smile, but I wasn't happy about it. And yeah, I have they his brothers, who are still alive, have three a niece and two nephews, and they have absolutely nothing to do with them at all. And that's the only family they have left, which I guess is a blessing for my kids because they don't want to have anything to do with them either. So,
Mm-mm-mm.
yeah,
I just can't believe that. Like, you can be a great doctor and just suck at everything and just like suck at everything else because you're not being a good husband and you're not being a great father because you're out gambling. You're taking a chance, losing money. Your kids are suffering. Your wife is unhappy, and you're letting your family hurt her regularly. Like,
regularly.
I
At one point, his mother, it was Mother's Day, and I always had every holiday at my house. And it was Mother's Day, and my mother told me she wanted like some lingerie for Mother's Day. Well, I wasn't going to
okay,
get that.
mom.
Well, no, like stockings, under, slips, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And, well, she was a cute little thing anyhow. My mother was adorable. Um, she died at 105.
What? It's possible. Now you got to tell us later what Mama did. How she what did
Nothing,
she eat? Nothing.
nothing.
Girl, that's some good genes right there. Okay,
I
go ahead.
hope so. But so I wasn't going to give that to my mother-in-law because it was a very personal thing and I didn't think she would want that. So I searched and searched and searched and I found this beautiful antique blue box that she could put things in on top of her dresser. And when she opened the box at Mother's Day, she threw it at me across the table and she said, "What the hell am I supposed to do with this?" She said, "This isn't treating me like a mother. This is treating me like a stranger. You should have given me the same thing you gave your mother." And she stormed out the door.
Girl. Girl. So now at this point, you're older, right? How do you respond now that you're no longer 21 years old and that behavior is like that?
I got in my car and I followed her home and begged her forgiveness.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Now, what kind of an example is that to show my daughter?
Trying to make it work in a relationship that they have no desire to have a good relationship with you, because that behavior is just so crazy to me.
Do you know when she changed her attitude towards me? It was about towards the end of my marriage. She showed up at my home one night. We had a house on the shore on the Cape Cod, and she showed up on a Saturday night around 5 o'clock. And this came on the heels of my daughter being in a very bad auto accident the night before. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm very angry." Well, oh, that was her. Oh, that was, she said, "I'm very angry with your husband." I said, "Why are you angry with him?" And she said, "Because he did not return my phone call." And I looked at her and I said, "Get the F out of my effing house this effing minute." I said, "How dare you? That's what you're upset about, a phone call?" And here I almost lost my daughter the night before in an accident. And I just used that F-bomb over and over again. And she called me later that night. This is the mind she had. And she said, "I just want you to know that you're the best thing that ever happened to my family. And I love you." And I said to her, after I used the F word on you, which I would never have done before. And she said, "It was because you cared enough to use the F word on me." Now, I would have done it a long time ago, but and so that was the kind of mentality that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. It is. It was. But after that, I started to gain my strength because I said, "This woman is totally nuts."
Yeah, I'd F her to death. Every time you look, I've been telling her. I've been telling her that she'd be like, "Oh, she done lost her mind." Well, honey, you done told me what works on you, and that is strange. Do you
And
hear?
up until that minute, she treated me like swill, absolute swill, until I did that. Yeah, Legends World, it's great that I managed to get out of that situation, but it took an awfully long time.
So what happened? Like, I know that they wanted access to your house and all that kind of stuff. The whole family.
Yeah.
Did that ever happen, or did you?
No, I wouldn't let them have keys.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that never happened, because that would have been way too much control. Them just walking in and out. So you did stand up when it came to that.
Yes, but it didn't mean that they didn't show up at times. They just didn't have the key to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to find her going through my mail. I used to find her in my bedroom going through drawers.
Girl, this is a whole new type of abuse. Like, I experienced physical abuse, but like my in-laws are great. So this part, I've never heard of such a thing.
And when they say you marry a person and not the family, that's not true. You do
That's
marry the
You
family.
do marry the family.
Yep.
And when you divorce the husband, you have a choice if you want to divorce the family or not at that point, you know?
Right.
So, well, I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
that you were able to get out of that, because that sounds like emotional, mental, and financial abuse, and not even from one person. This is like an entire family.
Yep.
And you still managed to be successful. So that is against the odds that you still were able to have a successful business and, you know, just create the life that you wanted.
I don't take it for granted. I absolutely do not take it for granted. Selena, I appreciate every day. I wake up every morning and say, thank you, God, because I love my life and I love my family and I love my in laws. Um, I don't have too many in laws. I only have a brother in law and a sister in law, but they're wonderful. And it's a healthy home, and it's a healthy relationship.
And that is what we all deserve at the end
Hmm.
of the day. And the thing about it is, I think we do feel trapped sometimes by okay, we do feel trapped sometimes, and it's like we're stuck on the role that the people should play. Like we're so caught up in the idea of having that healthy family that you hold on to unhealthy situations and relationships, only to realize later in life that you can still have it, and these people don't even carry a title anymore other than friend. You know, it's not the in-law, it's the I have great friends, I have great relationships outside of mothers, fathers, father-in-laws, brother-in-laws, all of those names and titles. We get caught up in them trying to force relationships. I hope I'm making sense what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Group of people that can become just like your family, and there's no blood relation.
Yep. Yep. If I knew then what I knew now, then things would have been different. Thank you, Rosalind.
Yes, Rosalind, your strength, your story of strength and perseverance, that's a blessing. It is. It is. So, yes, so my story is the physical abuse and the emotional abuse, and sometimes the financial. But like I said, I haven't experienced just that cruel treatment from, the in-laws. So, but I do have a different story to tell. Now, tell us about the human trafficking.
Okay. This is my second book.
Mhm.
I The first book was a historic fiction that was loosely based on my father's life, and it got amazing reviews. It really got great reviews. I found it very easy to write. I didn't have a plan. I just sat down and wrote, and I thought I could do it again. But it's like when I see all these stories of human trafficking, and I am a true crime lover. I love watching TV or movies or read books about true crime.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm going to write a fiction about human trafficking. And I just sat down and wrote it. And I made it up as I went along. It's pure fiction. And that's my second book. And that got grabbed up by a publisher immediately based on a podcast that I had done. And they read my first book and they signed me.
Okay.
In my first book, I only sent one manuscript out to a hybrid publisher, and they signed it right away. So I haven't had the typical writer's experience of knocking on doors and banging my head against the wall. Um, in fact, I like my second book even better than the first book, and I think it will do better. And delving into the world of human trafficking, boy, my husband used to say to me, "What goes on in your head?" I don't know what goes on in your head. And of course, I try to get onto some sites where I was researching
Mhm.
human trafficking until I got an email. It has been noticed that you've been entering the dark web. And I said, okay, that's it. No more computer research.
Wow. They're all in our business, aren't they?
Honest to God. Even right now, I'm sure that someone out there is listening to this that, yep,
Mm.
that shouldn't be.
It should not be. I mean, we got Alexa over there. She always waiting to hear, or Siri. They're always listening. So you're right. You just never know everything that we're doing. There is no such thing as privacy.
No, there isn't. I mean, sometimes we'll just be having a conversation in my house, and all of a sudden I'm getting I'm getting ads relating to the conversation I just had.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, how is this happening? I
know.
don't have Alexa.
You got a phone.
I have a phone. I have Siri.
Mm-hmm. She always listening to. I think you have to go in there and turn off all of those settings because they just have it automatically where it connects and it remembers your browsing history and all of that.
Oh, without question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think people have to understand that there is no such word as privacy in our language anymore.
You're always on ring camera, on somebody's camera.
You're on something.
You're
Right.
You definitely are on something. Okay, so tell us how to order the books.
It's on, you can get it on any website. It's on Amazon, barnesandnobles.com. The name of the book the first book is called The Story of ... And the 3 dots are representative of all the immigrants that came over to this country at the beginning of the 20th century that all have stories. Everyone has a story that came over to this country early at that time period. My second book isn't out yet. It should be out in April, and it will be out everywhere. And the name of that is Stolen Lives. So the first one, The Story of ... by Shirley B. Novack, can be purchased anywhere. And if your bookstore doesn't have it, they can order it, or a library. Amazon, of course, is the number one spot to get it. Stolen Lives, which will be out in April, I imagine, soon, will also be available everywhere. And that's the one on human trafficking. And I'm really anxious to get that out because it's such a prevalent topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Frightening.
There's so many frightening things going on.
I know.
You're going to have a whole nother new book to write here.
Well, the third book is in the process, and that's actually a sequel to book number 2. So it's also centered on human trafficking, only it gets a little more serious about the topic. Yeah, it's probably why I stay up at night. I'm afraid of me.
Yes. I typed this and then I lost it. So here we go.
Yeah.
Yes. I said this on the live before because we have a double header today. So you're the second live, but Miss Kathleen was first. And so she had a book called Beautifully Broken. And she's wrote others since then. But when you put things down in a book, that's what we were talking about. It gets it out of your head and onto paper. And once you get it written down, it's like so freeing for you, to write, to journal. And you never know how that's going to affect your life in the future. You may not feel like you're an author, but all of your journals put together can be amazing. It could be somebody else's guide to how to get through human trafficking or how to get through mental abuse and domestic violence and all of those things. Like, we never know why we're going through some of this stuff. We never know how our testimony is going to really bless the next person. So,
well, you are the 26th podcast I've done in about 18 months. And I don't think I did voodoo. I'm sorry. I'm reading the comments that are coming in. But anyhow, I never envisioned myself being here doing this, but it has opened a whole new world to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm meeting incredible people like yourself and making wonderful relationships. Some have already have visited me. And I have a very patient husband who says, I don't know what to expect from you tomorrow, but if a stranger walks through the door, I know it's your stranger. It's no longer a stranger. And yeah, I love people and I love learning. I think listening is one of the most important things anyone can do. When you meet someone and all they do is talk about themselves and they have no questions about who you are or what you do, they could be a very boring person. But I think listening is important and finding out about people and being interested. You need to be interested in order to be interesting. I guess
Mhm.
that's the best thing.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. We're gonna pop over here to my mother-in-law think I did voodoo on my husband. And it's sad because it just says a lot about that person. Like the way your mother-in-law was treating you says a whole lot about her and the behavior of your husband and her children. Like it's their environment, what they were brought up in. And so you have to realize that it's not you, it's them. So it says a whole lot about them because who needs to even, don't nobody even want a husband that they got they gotta do some voodoo on. Lord have mercy.
No, it's abusive.
It is abusive.
And it's the kind of abuse that isn't apparent. There are no black and blue marks. There's nothing visual. It's just a constant badgering of your mind.
Yes.
And that's worse.
And it's an attempt to try to control you because if they're in your head, anybody that's in your head that's speaking negative over your relationship and giving you that extra tension and anxiety that you didn't have, like you're supposed to be newly happily married, but instead you over here got a whole new battle to fight because of why? Because you want to be controlling, because you're jealous, because you want your son for yourself, or your daughter for yourself. Like, why do you even think on these same lines is beyond me. I've never heard somebody say what you just said, the whole family needs a key so they can come and go whenever they want to come and go. And that's just one of the stories. I'm sure you have many to tell
Oh,
about just that situation. So, I mean, what would you tell to someone who says this? This means it's the start of that same type of abuse. If you're starting lies and stirring mess about me, what advice would you give?
you have to find within you. You have to be strong enough to stand up for what you think is right and what you believe, and not allow that to go on. Just because they're older or they're someone's mother doesn't mean that they deserve your respect. I used to tell my mother, Mom, you can't believe what she said to me, what she did to me. And my mother used to say, you know what, Shirley? Mothers always forgive and forget, but mothers-in-law do not. You have to be respectful. Just be respectful and let it go. That was the worst advice. I would never tell my daughter to do anything like that. Never. But I had to learn through the experience. I think just telling someone doesn't make them feel it. And it happened. I have 3 children that I love more than anything in the world, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them.
Mhm.
And when I tell them, if I had you through a different husband, through a different father, because they say to me, well, what if you didn't marry Dad? Then you wouldn't have me. And I said, the way I respond is, yes, I would. You wouldn't look the same, but your soul would be the same. And so that's the difference. But no, you were meant to be my daughter. You were meant to be my son. And no matter who the father was, your souls would have been there. It's
Mhm.
just physically you'd look different.
Mhm.
And they believe that. I mean, it sounds good. It's because we have to believe it. I mean, I can't imagine not having my children, who
Mhm.
they are. And I'm so proud of, they've all become very, very accomplished. Of course, none of them have given me grandchildren, nor
Good.
will they. I mean, they were all very professional, and that was all 3 of them have just been professionally driven, and they didn't get married. And they're beautiful kids. I would have had such beautiful grandchildren.
Oh my goodness. Well, you never know. You think anybody will change their mind?
Oh, they're too old. My kids are too old. It's
Oh.
it's the time. Well, my baby doesn't ever want to get married. I mean, my baby's 45 and it's a guy, but he never wants to be married, and that's fine. The other 2,
Do you think it's because of what he saw you go through?
No, because when my kids threw us a 25th wedding anniversary party, huge party. And my middle child, my son, got up and gave a speech and said, now we were in the middle of marriage counseling at the time. And my son gave a speech and said, my parents are more in love now than they were the day they got married. They didn't have a clue. There wasn't any fighting going on. There was no demeaning going on, and I always I always put a smile on, and I was a great mother. And I am patting myself on the back for being a great mother because I didn't want my kids to grow up in an unhappy home. So they were shocked.
Girl, that's a lot of work to do. You got a husband blowing all the money. You got in-laws that's trying to be super controlling as they're demeaning and degrading and all of that stuff. And yet the children that's in the house, they have no idea. Girl,
No, because there was no yelling. There was no yelling. There was no fighting. It was all beneath the surface. And
I don't know if I could have, faking the funk probably wouldn't have been something I would have been able to do that long.
When we got separated, everybody was shocked. Everyone was shocked. They said, we always thought you were a strange couple because you've always been so happy. But
y'all was so happy. People was questioning, is that a real marriage going on over there? No, we in a business agreement. He pays the bills. I take care of the children.
But obviously he didn't really pay the bills because they came after us. So, in fact, when we were in divorce court, and I said my attorney said to the judge said, he has all this debt. Now, how do you propose to pay for it? And I said, well, why should I pay for it? I didn't even know he had it. And she said, well, if he had made money instead of losing it, you would have reaped the benefits of that. So tell me how you're going to pay the debt.
Oh, Lord, that's why your baby son don't want to get married. It's too much to go into it because you're just trying to get out. I just want to be out. I want to be free. And he doesn't even want to give you that without you taking on the burden of the debt.
No, we had a house on Cape Cod I had it rented at the time to the Canadian government because there was an Air Force base nearby and they needed a place for someone to stay once a month or twice a month. And they rented my house for a ridiculous amount of money. So the house on Cape Cod was making money that I was sharing with him. And yet he made me sell that house to pay his debt because it made me happy to have that house. He'd want me to be happy. And that was my idea to invest in that particular piece of property that was amazing. But I had to give that up. But
I mean, girl, how did you meet him? I know he wasn't supposed to be the topic of this conversation, but I'm just blown away. And then at how
he was an intern at the hospital that I had a summer job at when I was in college. And that's how I met him.
And at the end, he still just did not even want you to be happy. That's crazy.
No, and then many years later, he said to me, you know what? He said, you're really a nice person. He said, and I'm so sorry for the way I allowed you to be treated all those years. And I said, of course I'm a nice person. I know I'm a nice person. And but it was very it was a relief to me to hear him say that. And also he was at my house for dinner like a few nights before he passed away because because of the children, we became really good friends. And he actually loved my husband. He loved my husband because my husband is such a good guy. And he saw that. And I couldn't believe that they were actually becoming friendly.
Well, that's good. That is a beautiful ending to,
I know.
Woo, child.
I know.
Yeah, that's good. And
Yeah.
I think that does come with age, the maturing and all that kind of stuff. Because I know one of my exes gave me permission to talk about, the treatment, because he's like, you didn't deserve that. And so I can relate to you saying, it may be late, but it's appreciated. It may have taken years for you to come and say, I'm sorry for the way that I've treated you. And it just does something. It doesn't take it away, but it's like, okay, at least you acknowledge. Because I think that's what the problem that we have with people. No one wants to take accountability for anything, and you don't want to acknowledge the wrong that you've done. So with him telling you that, even though it's 25 years of marriage, that it took you that long to come around to tell me that.
Yeah. But you know what? A lot of education comes with age.
It does.
I know. It just shouldn't have taken this long. It was a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But all's well. Now my life is wonderful.
I
It's
love that. I love that for us.
yeah.
Encouraging, because then that means it's possible for any of us, no matter what type of relationship you've been in and the things that you went through in that relationship. Again, you have to let some things go. You have to forgive. And even though you had to basically cuss your mother-in-law out that time, um, she did come around. Like,
It was too late.
it
Let
was.
me tell you, it was much too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the damage had already been done. I mean, she brought up children to understand that the only people in life that you can trust are your siblings and your parents. Everyone else is to be considered an outsider.
The enemy. Mm-hmm.
And that was me. I was the outsider.
Mm.
And yeah. So if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have done it differently. But as long as I learned before I die that the mistakes that I made will never be, I'll make new ones. I won't make old ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna learn. Listen, we're gonna listen and not judge, and learn and
Yep.
move forward. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And people pay attention. Yeah, it's life is very funny. Everybody has a different experience, and I also believe that it's not a free ride. That no one goes through an entire lifetime without having to pay their dues at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You could be, you could look like you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but at some point in your life, you're going to have to pay for that silver spoon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I missed this or not, but when you went through the airport, why did the people think that you had a bomb?
Oh, that was the second time. The first time I was detained by the Secret Service because they thought I was going to blow up Air Force Two.
Little old you, like, why do these people think?
Okay, I had a van with tinted windows, and I went to pick up a little table at the airport in the cargo area, and I had never been to the cargo area, so it wasn't on that plane. And they said it's coming in on the next plane. I said, okay, I'm going to go have dinner at the terminal, and I'll be back at 7:30 for the next plane. So I go to leave the terminal, and I'm stopped by a state trooper, and a whole entourage goes by, limousines with the American flag. And I said, well, I don't know where I'm going, but they do, so I'll follow them. And all of a sudden, they come to an abrupt stop, and I look up, and I'm at the end of a private runway, and Air Force Two is on the tarmac. And I'm surrounded by Secret Service and state troopers. And they're calling in my license plate. And I'm trying to tell them I'm just an interior designer, and and they wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't let me say a word. And every time I'd go to back up, the car would stall. The car kept stalling. So finally, it was Colin Powell. He had just spoken at Harvard's commencement. We were in the middle of Desert Storm. It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the plane takes off, and everybody goes into a building, and they leave me. Okay, so at that point, I'm able to back up, and I pull into the service station at the airport. And the guy checks out my car and he says, there's nothing wrong with your car. I had a phone hardwired into my car at the time. He said, check your phone. I bet it's dead. Sure enough, my phone was dead. Because he said they have a device, they can prevent you from leaving. They can't stop you if you're in a moving position, if you're moving, but they can prevent you from leaving from a stationary position. And so I came home.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But it kills the cells in your phone. And that was the night I came home and I said, wow, what a story I've got. Anyhow, the second time was about 5 years ago when I was traveling to Italy with a girlfriend. And I had called the airport ahead of time because I had a vial of medicine that had to be refrigerated. And I was taking it packed in ice. And they said, oh, no problem. No, just put it, through the machine. It'll be fine. And all of a sudden, the belt stops and they're calling in the bomb squad.
Okay, continue. Yeah.
So the bomb squad comes and says, "Is that your package there on the belt?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Here, let me show you. It's my medicine." No, stand back. And they took me to a little room somewhere at the other end of the airport, and they start to very gingerly unzip the little blue package. And I did everything I could to keep myself from yelling, you know.
You trying to be arrested for real?
No, really. But anyhow, they opened. I told them. I said, "It's my medicine." And what happened was the ice was crimped, and it looked like wires in the X-ray machine.
Oh,
So they thought it was a bomb. And to tell you the difference, so I immediately ran to a phone when this was over, and I called my present husband, and I said, "Wow, you won't see, because as long as I can get a story from something, it's fine. I know I hadn't done anything wrong, but it made for a great story."
Did you miss your flight?
No, we were, because it was international, so we were there like 3 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
And yeah, but it was a great way to start my vacation. But the third time happened about 3 years ago, but it wasn't.
Too many times. Let me just say that. These too many times they messing with the sweet little Miss Shirley.
Well, then a couple of years ago, I was coming from Houston, and I had a mule sitting next to me on the plane, and whatever he was carrying in his stomach exploded. And he jumped over me into the aisle, writhing in agony. And we had to wait for the police to come on board and take him off the plane. And I said, "This is another great story." They had nothing to do with me personally, except that he was right next to me and he jumped over me into the aisle. But maybe that's why human trafficking is so interesting to me. I don't know. Crime and misdemeanors. But as long as you know you're not guilty, you haven't done anything wrong, and it makes for a good story, throw it my way. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
I know. My kids think I'm nuts, but maybe I am.
Look, we all probably feel that way at some time, that, I done been through so much, I might be a little cuckoo. Probably had to be delusional to get through it anyway. Just like, it's not happening.
But see, you're still smiling.
I don't know how, but that's all the time.
What's the alternative?
That's right. And sometimes you feel that alternative, and you have to encourage yourself. And it's very important to have people. That's why I feel sad for you during that time. I'm so glad that your story is now a success story and a happy ending to that. But just to know that you go through so many years in a dark place, feeling like you have no options. And so we're here to remind you that there are options, and you do have everything inside of you. You have that strength to do it. we understand it takes a while. Like I went from one abusive relationship to another abusive relationship, but I didn't know better. It's like I felt like I deserved better, but at the same time, I didn't do better and I didn't expect better because my self esteem had been torn down so low that even though I wanted better, I didn't believe I deserved better. That's probably how I should say
And
it.
that's common. That's common because you were so beaten down that
Mm-hmm.
you felt this is what you deserved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But baby, we deserve happiness and we are gonna get it. I'm gonna have me a husband. I'm gonna call Miss Shirley and say, Miss Shirley, honey, come help me. Because all he needed to do was hear what you had to say. At first, he didn't understand. He was like, I need your help. And he came right, Johnny, on the spot. So I cannot wait until somebody is paying my bills. And that's why Minister Wallace said, that's why you don't have no husband. Because you want somebody to come and rescue you. She said, you need to have a heart to give. And maybe I ain't there yet because it's coming right out of my mouth like I'm ready for somebody to come in.
We'll work on it. We will work on it. We will get there because look at you, look at that face. I mean, and face and personality. I never wanted to get married again. I said, oh no, I worked 3 jobs to not have to support myself when this was over. And I had the best 7 years until I got married. And that 7-year period was a blast. I lived my youth. And I'm glad I did. I had a wonderful time. I never wanted to get married again, but I married someone who had a fabulous first marriage and he wanted to do it again. And I wasn't going to give him up. He was too precious.
Aw.
Yep. Yep. So, and we were fixed up by someone who knew us both.
Mm-hmm. Those are the best. Those are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although one friend of mine fixed me up with someone, excuse me, who had just gotten out of a mental hospital, and he
I
came.
don't know. I'd be saying you, my friend. I
Yeah,
don't think
no, well, I did afterwards. I did, but when he showed up at my house and he told me where he had just been, I said, you know what? I don't do depression. I'm sorry, I don't do depression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to take that time to work on yourself before you jump into something else. And so that 7 years gave you an opportunity to love you, to take care of you, and then be mentally prepared for
Right.
a husband. Because even though they're a good husband, if you are not ready, you will squander your blessing. So it's good that you had that time in between, you know.
I did, and I will say that at one point, because I was having such a good time, and my best friend at the time called me and said, "You're out of control." You're
Not
out of
Miss
control.
Shirley, you out of control.
She said, until you learn to just stay home and be happy being alone, you're not going to be good for anybody else. And it was like a slap in the face, but I listened. And that's exactly what I did. I learned to be happy just being with me. And until you can be happy with yourself, you'll never be happy for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot of self-confidence. And yeah, I think I am. I think I'm a confident person because I never set out to hurt anybody deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now I'm working on my 3rd book, and it's a whole new life for me. And I'm a senior citizen, and it's wonderful.
But again, a true testimony of how it's never too late. And I think I talked about this young man earlier because he came on the show and he was an author and a musician, right? So I thought we were going to be talking about that. When I tell you my reactions be real reactions because I be finding out this stuff as the audience finds out. When he said my daddy died when I was 14, he said I was raped at 16 and I tried to commit suicide 3 times after that. And this young man was only like 26, 27. I keep telling it because he really caught me off guard with that. But because of my own experience, I can relate. And that's one thing about going through all the hell that you go through is that you have compassion and you have empathy for other people. May not have it the way that you need it when you're young, because you're young, you're confused, you're sad, you're depressed, you have all of these feelings. But once you get older, it's like the wisdom and the peace comes with it, and so you become okay being alone. You become okay loving yourself, dating yourself, going to have dinner and a movie by yourself. It's okay. I know there's times, because I'm over here in Iowa, there's times I feel like I wish I had somebody to go just have lunch with. But this is the season of separation before elevation for me. And I need to learn the lesson and be okay with being by myself, journaling, continuing to have conversation with Celena, because I love it. I feel like this is my purpose, to have a platform so that people can come and share their testimony, their businesses, their books, and the success of, I went through this, but look at me now. We need hope, and we need hope more now than ever before, because there's a lot of things that's going on, transpiring right before our eyes. And so having that story that you said, I've been in darkness, but now I'm in the light. I don't do depression, I'm happy. It's the total opposite, and that's what we need to hear, because you're giving someone hope through your testimony. And I pray that I'm giving someone hope through my testimony. I know sometimes I'm saying the same thing over, but it's my story, and it's the things that I've went through and the things that I've overcome.
I love when you said going from separation to elevation. That's a great thing to say, to feel. Yeah. And I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through in order to get to this place that you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that a lot of people out there that are listening to you have had the same experience and are just keeping it buried deep, deep inside.
It doesn't help anybody.
No.
You, for starters, whenever we carry all of that guilt and that shame, and like you go through a period where you're just kind of spiraling out of control, because all these years you felt like you didn't have control. So once you got that freedom, it's like you done lost your mind. You're just doing all kinds of stuff. But thank God for your friend to say, listen, I need for you to settle it down some, because this is your life and you had a purpose. And so I'm just thankful for you. I'm thankful for you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So I have 3 questions that I have been trying to ask at the end. But before I ask those, I want to give you an opportunity to share anything that we may have missed or not touched on that you wanted to make sure to say.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
I think so too. I think so too. I just wanted to make sure, because like I said, I love having this platform. It's not in conjunction with other people, because if I signed up for someone else, we only got a 30-minute window, or we only got an hour window. So, we're rushing. We don't rush over here. This is a place to feel comfortable, to sit and to chat like we're having a conversation. The only questions I have, they're at the end, and they're easy. So before I take the commercial break, I want to ask you, when we come back, tell us if you could tell your younger self something, what would you tell your younger self? One word of encouragement that you would like to share. Like, for example, you've been through a divorce. So if you want to tell someone something on that aspect, or someone that's writing a book, like just something that you would like to share. And the last thing is, we've been on here an hour, right? So if you could be like, okay, if you don't get anything else from this hour that we've been on here, you have to take this sunshine golden nugget. What would that sunshine golden nugget be? Like, if you don't get anything else from this. And so I'll ask you as soon as we come back. But right now, before I get in trouble, because Tamaya be on me, we're going to do our intermission, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Hang tight, my sunshine. Conversations with Celena. We'll be right back. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Music just makes you feel better. I'm.
Oh,
Oh my goodness gracious. So the first one is, what would you tell your younger self if you could tell little Shirley something? What would you tell her?
you cannot put an age on standing up for yourself. Like I grew up in an age where children were to be seen and not heard. I did not bring my children up like that. I don't care if they were 3 years old, they had a voice. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't, because you are a human being and you have feelings. And I would tell myself, don't put up with what you put up with, no matter how young you might be.
Mm-hmm. Cause I'm telling you, whenever you was telling her and you like, listen, this, that, and if you probably felt so good. Once you start dropping that F bomb, it sounded like you couldn't stop because you're like, I've been holding this for years. I couldn't wait to tell you.
And yeah, and she had never heard that from me before, ever. So I just let loose. I mean, but you know what? Yeah, it having my daughter come home not in a box that night really puts things into perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to prioritize and see what's important to you and what's not, and don't put up with the nonsense.
That's right.
Yep.
Them children will bring something totally different out of you because when it comes to defending myself or defending my children, yeah, that's like Mama Bear. You done woke up the Mama Bear in me.
No, I mean a hangnail on my kid is like torture for me. It's yeah. They
Mm-hmm.
don't get it because they're not parents. But yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is you are an author, you're a business owner, and you have a successful marriage now. Is there something from those experiences that you would like for someone to know? It's almost kind of like the last one too, but I made it into two questions.
Okay. Well, whatever you do in life, if it's not making you happy, don't do it. There's no failure in trying and not succeeding. There's failure in never trying in the first place. I
Girl,
mean,
say that again for the people in the back. I think you talking to me. I need you to say that one more time.
there is no failure in trying and not succeeding. The failure is never trying in the first place. I mean, the world is open to you. You can do anything you set your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out, you tried.
You do something different.
Yeah, you do something different. I mean, I have had so many when I built my house on Cape Cod, it was in a resort area and they had a little marketplace with little boutique shops and everything in it, but they didn't have a candy store. My oldest was 15 years old at the time, and I went to the owners of the property and I said, can I open a candy store here next summer? Now I don't eat candy. I don't like sweets. I love bread and butter. I love potato chips, but I don't eat sweets. And we opened the following summer, we opened Simply Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up with a celebrity clientele. We had it for 7 summers. It was only open Memorial Day to Labor Day. And my kids had the experience of running a business. And it was wonderful. I had an excuse to be on Cape Cod all summer. And yeah. Uh, so, I never thought I owned a candy store. Never. And actually, Cindy Lauper was one of our biggest clients. And we have her own personal True Colors. We have her copy she came over to get some boxes one day from my house. And it was my daughter's birthday. And she said, I'm going to leave you my own copy of my latest record that's coming out, but you can't call any radio stations because this was August and it wasn't coming out till September or October. She said, you have to promise me you won't show this to anybody, but I want Abby to have it. And so we have her own personal copy of True Colors.
I like Cindy.
What an experience. Oh, she's a one, you know what? She's a sweetheart. She is a real sweetheart. So I opened a candy store as one of my many things I've done in life. And that's why I say, if I tried it and it failed, I at least tried it.
I love that. I needed to hear that today because so many ideas just be popping in your head, and at some point, sometimes you just get overwhelmed and you don't do any of it. But the thing about it is, give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, don't look at it as a failure. Like, look at it as a stepping stone to do the next thing.
Absolutely. And I also believe that when one door closes, a bigger door opens.
Hmm. I was reading this thing the other day, and it was talking about like, how did that story go? It was they kind of drove up to a dead end, like the whole road and stuff was blocked off. So they got out the car and walked up to this wall only to realize that there was a doorway, and they opened the door, and the door got you to the big city, like you could see everything from it. So I was like, wow, because sometimes we see that roadblock ahead and then we stop, or we turn around and go back. We just freeze, you know what I'm saying? Don't know what to do. But if you have to shift, which was getting out the car, walking up to the door, like you just have to do something different to get to the other side. And then there's the big world. That just helped me because you run into obstacles in life, but there's always a way through or around or over or under, because when there's a will, there is a way.
You know what? You won't believe this. I used to tell my kids when they were unhappy or depressed about something going wrong, I used to tell them, envision yourself swimming through a murky moat. And you have to swim through this moat to get to the other side where there's a big city with big lights. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that funny? Then that's sort of the analogy you just made.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my thing. You got to get through the moat to get to the city.
That's right. And it's true. And it's a constant reminder. I think we feel like, well, I told myself that yesterday. Well, guess what? You might have to tell yourself that today, tomorrow, and next week, because there's always going to be something that tries to prevent you from owning that candy store, from writing that book, from building that interior design business. There's no, you never said once it was easy, but you said, I did it. Why
Mm-hmm.
did you do it? Because you tried.
Right?
You never would have known had you not tried.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I went back to school in my 30s to get a degree in design, and I took one course a semester for 9 years. And by the time I graduated, I was already established. So I didn't want anyone to know I was just graduating. But I was determined to get my degree to make it more believable that I was being professional.
Mhm.
And I actually went back and ended up doing a seminar every semester at that school to give back. And I was determined to get my degree. And I had 3 little kids at home. So I took one course a semester, and it took 9 years.
Hey, you did it. And again, this is helping someone else that may be taking longer than what someone else did, but you didn't get caught up in what somebody else was doing. I got one more analogy. I saw this thing on Facebook, and it was two swimmers. One swimmer was focused ahead, and the other swimmer was looking at the guy swimming. And it said, losers focus on winners, winners focus on winning. So while you too busy over here looking at this man, you losing ground, and he was ahead. Like they were both swimming like this, and he looking over here, and this man just focused on what he's doing. So when you're trying, you can't try comparing to, oh, well, their podcast is doing better than my podcast. Their business is doing better than my business. And they like her better than they like me. And all of that comparison trap will keep you in fear and in doubt. But if
Yep.
you focus on what you're doing and see yourself, like you said, in that murky water, you see yourself on the other side of it. That's whenever you become successful, because you're not deterred and distracted by what's going on over here on the left, what's going on here on the right. You are focused on that wall. winning. He's in that pool and he's focused on getting to touch that wall as swimmers do. I can't really swim, but I love that. I love that analogy because I took a screenshot of it because it's so right. Like, Selena, don't focus on what somebody else is doing. You just focus on winning and
I think you should
celebrate
learn how,
the
you
way.
need to learn how to swim. I think you need to learn how to swim. You don't know when the big flood is coming. You have to swim.
Oh Lord. Oh, I might. So, but no, that was really good. Thank you for sharing that. I needed to hear that. I don't know about
Oh,
anybody.
I'm happy that I
Mhm.
went there then. I am.
Yes, yes, I am too. And then the last question that I have is, out of all the things that you said, you have one sunshine golden nugget that you want people to take away from this live. If you didn't hear anything else I said, I need for y'all to take this one sunshine golden nugget with you.
Oh my God. Listen.
Okay, I'm listening.
No, listen.
Oh, I'm like, I'm listening.
Pay attention and listen. I mean, meeting you has been such a gift for me. You have no idea. It really is, Selena. I I don't know how we got together, but we have, and I think you're a gift. I do. I think your show is a gift, and I am just happy for your success.
Thank you. About to make me cry over here.
But
Um,
please learn how to swim.
that would help me slim down too if I got in the pool and started swimming. Um,
My nephew was brought up in Kansas, and he can't swim. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And now he's in South Carolina, and he can't swim. When you're brought up on the shore, you're brought up on the East Coast or the West, you're in the ocean all the time.
mhm.
You swim. You learn to swim very young. And yeah, I may not swim all the time, but I can swim.
I might add that on my bucket list to learn how to swim. It would definitely help me. So, but you did say earlier to listen.
Yep.
We have two ears and one mouth, which means we need to listen more and talk less.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
And you know what? I think people are the great, listening to people is a great education
Hmm.
because everyone has a different experience.
That
And
is,
whether they don't have to be like you, they just have to be kind.
yeah,
I guess be
it's
kind.
okay to have diversity. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
learn from different people, different cultures, and I think that's what is very important. You were sharing with me about your street. Like, I don't see all of that where I am, but it is a blessing that you have that.
I have the same friends now that I had in elementary school, and they're all over the country. And one day each summer, everyone comes into town and we get together. And Facebook, I mean, we're all on Facebook. And it's amazing. I mean, my girlfriend has been with me since I was 5 years old.
Hmm.
Our children think they're related. They're the
That's
same ages. They get together all the time. And yeah, it's very, books have been written about the community that I grew up in because it was diverse, and well, it wasn't diverse, actually. It wasn't, but we were all poor, but no one knew it because everybody else was poor. And it was just an amazing time to grow up. It was post World War II. We were all baby boomers, and we never forgot our roots. And some of them, they either became criminals or they became extremely successful.
hmm
One or the other. There was no middle of the road. I mean, yeah, they were either went to
it's not.
jail.
It's usually not. I know I'm extreme. I'm either all in or all out.
Yep.
So I get that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Once your book is released, you have to come back and be my guest and tell us all about it and how to get it and all of those things.
Thank you, Celena. It was wonderful being a guest on your show. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. You hang on, don't hang up. But I'm gonna close out the stream and then I'm gonna talk to you real quick before you go, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. You know, I love you so much for your love, for your support. Be sure to share this video, share a smile, and spread some sunshine. Until next time, keep it smiling, sunshine.